Second quarter results for AMD, they are just hitting the wire right now, so let's get you those numbers. AMD Q2 adjusted EPS 48 cents. Street was at 49 cents. Top line though, Q2 revenue comes in at 7.69 billion. The Street is at 7.43 billion. Let's turn ahead. Let's look for what they're calling for Q3. AMD sees Q3 revenue between 8.4 to 9 billion. The Street was at 8.37 billion. And I'm just looking at shares right now to see the immediate reaction. Up a bit in the after hours here. No, now we're actually popping more than 2%. And keep in mind, this stock had a nice run into this print. It was up about 45% year to date. Analysts would chalk that up to different reasons. They'll talk about China AI returning. They were talking about how the core business did seem to be doing just fine. They said, and at least initially here, we see a positive reaction of about 1.2% in the after hours. The managing director and senior semiconductor research analyst, that'd be Cody Acree. Cody, it is good to see you. So AMD reports. What do you make of the results, Cody?
Yeah, they look like strong numbers to me, up about 300 million this quarter and about a similar amount for September. The bottom line is a little iffy, given that they're just in line with the consensus, 48 cents for June. And then the bottom line for next quarter, they don't give an EPS guidance, but they are saying that it excludes any China shipments, which we expect them to get back into China quickly as the Trump administration has relaxed those guidelines. And so that number, 800 million, came out of the June number. And so if you add that back in, then you've got a really nice upside this quarter. And if you add anything back into September, then that 400 million turns into probably something closer to $1 billion of upside. And so I think overall it's a very strong number, and hence the stock reaction after hours.
Cody, let me ask you a key issue that obviously, you know, your colleagues on the street are asking. Broadly, Cody, how big is the AI opportunity for AMD, for Lisa Su's company, with China sanctions reversed?
Well, with China sanctions, it's about $1.5 billion that they expect that they lost this last 2 quarters. And so I think that reverses pretty quickly. Overall, for AI, it's a huge opportunity because you see what Nvidia is doing. And really, AMD is the only viable alternative outside of the custom ASICs that the hyperscalers are doing. So if you want general purpose CPUs, and every server has to run on a general purpose CPU, to handle all the back office and all the coordination of these hyperscaler data centers, then if you're looking for an alternative to Intel or Nvidia, AMD is really the only game in town. And they've been really eating Intel's lunch from a performance standpoint, and from a price and performance standpoint versus Nvidia, they're also a very, very good alternative. So I think the upside is really unlimited for AMD. It's just a matter of can they capture it? And I think so far they are starting to.
Cody, you know, you mentioned Nvidia. When you think about AMD's latest and greatest AI chips, how would you stack them up versus Nvidia? Is there a performance gap there?
Well, with their MI350, they've really closed the gap. With their 400, they're getting some performance advantage. Really, where AMD gets the biggest advantages in their memory bandwidth, their ability to throughput faster data. And so on a processing-to-processing basis, AMD likely still trails NVIDIA somewhat, but they make what they make up for or lack in processing, they make up for in memory bandwidth. And that's really in their strength, and that's really the gating factor for these hyperscale data centers, is how fast can they push product through these processors. It's not necessarily absolute processing speed, but it's the bandwidth of memory that is the limiting factor.
Chris, I want to get you in here because Cody likes this name. I know he tells his clients this one's a buy. You're not such a fan, Chris, of this one. Explain why.
Well, it isn't that we're not a fan, right? You know, when you look at the Pro portfolio, we have shares in Nvidia and we have shares of Marvell. And, you know, I think Cody said, if I remember correctly, that AMD is a viable alternative after some of the custom ASIC chips that the hyperscalers are doing. You're talking about, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet. That is one of the angles that Marvell offers us opportunity into those custom ASICs, as well as riding the overall wave of AI and data center demand. Marvell also has the enterprise networking and the carrier infrastructure, which I see really benefiting from incremental capital spending as AI adoption continues to rise.
Cody, your response to Chris's comments there.
Oh, I completely agree with Chris on that. The ASIC vendors, the Marvells and Broadcoms of the world, are really coming on into their own as the hyperscalers are continuing to lean into custom solutions. They're wanting tailored specific solutions for their very tailored specific workloads. And so they don't need to pay for all the overhead of a general GPU that is NVIDIA if they've got a very specific workload that they need to customize for. And with these ASIC vendors, they're able to do exactly that and provide a much cheaper internal solution that meets only the needs of the hyperscalers individually, and I think that that's a big market going forward. But there's also the need for general purpose GPUs, CPUs, and so I think that AMD can bridge in between because you do need CPUs to run even those hyperscale servers that are running Marvell and Broadcom chips. They have to have CPUs to manage all that backlog or that back office workload. And so I think that AMD is a very, very nice alternative to Intel today, is what we've seen, and to NVIDIA's Grace Hopper or Grace CPU that is entrenched in their Blackwell processor.
Cody, how should investors think about the 232 tariffs and what that could mean for AMD's financials?
Well, the tariffs are less of an issue, I think, only because these processors are being built largely in Arizona, and so these are domestic production into domestic data centers, and so I don't think tariffs are going to be a major issue. There are issues as AMD starts to ship into China and any restrictions into China, but I don't think that tariffs are going to be a major concern.
Cody, AMD offered what looked like a solid forecast here. You see the shares are slipping here, at least, in the after hours. What do you chalk that up to, Cody, potentially? Was this just a very high bar heading into this print?
Yeah, I think so. I think that AMD has had such a run that almost anything was going to cause some profit taking. Only an absolute blowout number was going to probably keep investors happy. And so I think that anything close to the bottom line, inline June number, and what probably will shake out to be close to the bottom line September number is going to be an excuse for traders to take profits. And I don't blame them for that. But I do think in the long run, AMD is a great investment, and it will grind higher following any quick trading volatility.